Hello everybody, Craig Peterson here. We are live, of course. I appreciate you being with us. We're going to cut over right now and start adding in our radio audiences as well, because as you might know, I am on terrestrial radio. So here we go. By the way, we are live and you can ask questions. In fact, I'd encourage you to post questions in there as we talk about election technology and just how safe or unsafe it really is. Hey, welcome everybody. Craig Peterson here on WGAN. We're live on Facebook, and we of course can be found over on my website as well, craigpeterson.com. We've got a lot of topics for today's show, but we're going to start with one that is really on everybody's minds right now as we're seeing more of these primary elections starting to come up, and we're seeing problems. Well, I don't know. Are they problems? I guess they really are problems with some of the election technology that has been used over in Iowa. New Hampshire's technology was really rather straightforward. As the Secretary of State in New Hampshire says, it's hard to hack a pencil. Although they're not using pencils in New Hampshire, they are using felt tip pens, which are pretty hard to hack as well. And these cards, kind of like the cardboard that you would have in the back of a shirt, like the shirt here when you get it new. It's that type of a cardboard. It's not shiny or glossy, and you mark it in, and then that goes through a reader that you put it into, and there's an election official there making sure that the ballot's legitimate. You're not trying to stuff the ballot box, and then that machine counts your vote. Now, the unfortunate thing is those machines are kind of old in most states. Some of them, in fact, I think maybe all of them, are still running Windows XP, but there's no easy way to get at the operating system. It's never connected to a network, even though some of these machines that have been examined have patch level 0. In other words, no patches of Windows XP, which is really quite surprising when you get down to it, and is a big problem in many, many cases. So New Hampshire went pretty well. We've got, of course, this weekend the next one coming up, which is Nevada, the Nevada caucuses. And I don't know what to believe anymore, because I've heard both sides of this, that we have voting in Nevada using the exact same technology that was being used over in Iowa, which to me would be just a shocker and a whole big dismay, because it was just so terrible. And as I've said on the radio before, in fact, this week when I was on with Ken and Matt, I think it might have been with Jim, I'm trying to remember who it was, which show. But anyhow, when I was on this week, I pointed out how when we're looking at some of this technology, we all, well, not all of us, but some of us love the latest, greatest technology. I'm one of those guys who likes to stick with something that I know works and explore current technologies and newer things. But so many times we get just bamboozled as taxpayers, because the people that are in control of the purse strings, they like the latest, coolest stuff. They like to buy stuff from people they know. Hence, the app in Iowa the company was run by former Hillary Clinton staffers. So I don't know how much vetting had really been done. We do know that apparently the code wasn't checked. Homeland Security had offered. We also had offers coming in from federal investigation bureaus, from a number of security companies saying, hey, listen, we'd be glad to have a look at this. And it was all closed source. It wasn't open source where you can have a look at that software and say, yes, indeed, everything's legit. That is great software. People can find bugs in it, and if they find a bug, they can report it, and it can be fixed, right? There's so many different things that could be done when we're talking about trying to make this secure. And in fact, I see Mary just joined us here on the Facebook Live, which is kind of cool, because she and I have been involved in a few elections in the past, and we've been monitoring them. I have a son that's been one of these election officials, you know, part-time people that get pulled in to watch the voter checklist and things. In New Hampshire, you have to have an ID in order to vote, which is really weird, you know. And I really like the way we did it here. Maine's doing the same thing. Most New England states are, in fact, us northern New England, are doing the same thing, where we have a felt pen, we have a piece of paper, we mark it down on that piece of paper, and we can then count it later on. If there's a problem, right, you can just go to that paper that's in the closet, pull out the stack, bring it with you, and once you've done that, you can have a bunch of people sit around. And think about Florida 20 years ago and what happened there with the hanging chads. They at least had a physical card they could look at, although, pregnant chads, hanging chads, got to be quite the mess. So now we're getting really concerned because of this new voting app that's out there. It's called Voatz, V-O-A-T-Z is how they spell it. And it's not the same one that was used in the caucuses. In the caucuses, the app that the Democratic Party was using was trying to just take the tabulations that were made by the people who were at all of these different precincts and figure out what the vote tallies were, and then supposedly you put it into the app and it gets sent up. Now, this Voatz app that we're talking about right now is something that goes a few steps beyond that, and they really want it to be used by military personnel, people who are overseas, people who can't necessarily vote when they want to vote, and it's, panacea. Maybe it's something we can get to in someday. But 4 states are going to use it this year. It really has not undergone the trials that it really should have gone down. And it's using a buzzword that I think really got people's attention, and they're saying, oh yeah, this is going to be safe, because it's using this buzzword called blockchain technology. And blockchain technology is what's used behind these various cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and some of the others in order to help secure the transaction. So the whole log is basically signed, each record inside the log is signed. Just because it has blockchain doesn't mean it's secure. It doesn't mean it was designed properly. And I've got a quote here in this article from MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Lab saying the whole thing is awfully sloppy. It looks awfully sloppy. It's Georgetown law. It's really impressive they were able to find such a pervasive set of vulnerabilities, said Matt Blaze, an election security expert and computer science professor at Georgetown Law School. But we should also remember it's ultimately unsurprising that they would be able to do so, because every expert has warned against internet voting as being vulnerable to flaws exactly like this. It goes on. University of Michigan here, Alex Halderman, saying that it makes votes seem like a sham. So it is a sham. I think it's a real problem. But we're going to do it anyways in 4 states, including West Virginia. This year is going to be a mess. We've already seen what happened in Iowa. We saw good voting happen in New Hampshire. We're not sure what's happening this weekend in Nevada. Then Super Tuesday is right on the heels. Some of these states are using these voting apps. Some of them are using the apps that are used for caucuses. Personally, I think, thank goodness, there aren't very many caucuses in the country. And we'll see. But one thing is guaranteed, and that is it will be quite the debacle. It is going to end up being a problem, I think, for everybody involved, because this technology has not been looked at thoroughly. Now, I reported on this a couple of weeks ago, this $10 million that was set aside and the money was granted through a Department of Defense grant, ultimately, and it was to design a voting machine that would be secure, a voting machine that we could count on. I think that's just wonderful. It hasn't really been tested yet. They brought it last year to one of these conferences like Black Hat. It's the other one. Its name eludes me right now, but it's right after Black Hat. Anyhow, they brought it out there. There is every year lately, a voting machine village where they have all kinds of voting machines there, and they are asking people to go ahead and try and hack into the voting machines. And we had a 15-year-old that was able to hack a voting machine right there in the village. And every voting machine was